Hi everyone, it's Sam from Sitemate. Defects are visible surface level imperfections which need to be fixed as part of any quality control process. In this video, we're going to look at how you can track and process defects inside of Dashpivot so that you can automatically reduce the amount of time spent on admin required to rectify the defects. So we've already gone ahead and set up a defects template inside of Dashpivot. You'll see that it's been set up as a workflow, which means that as we add defects, they're all going to sit inside of this first column, and then as they're signed off, it's going to move from column 1 to column 2 to column 3 and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and add a defect. You'll see that the form has already been set up. We can start to add some detail into these fields. Obviously I'm just flying through this as an example. We can start to fill in all of these fields. I'm not going to do all of them in this video, but we've got drop downs, we've got descriptions, we can add photos. Actually, a point on photos, this is really handy inside of the mobile app, because as you're filling out this form, maybe you're doing an inspection or a defect walk on site and you're picking up multiple defects, you can quickly just, as you're filling out the form and writing up a description, you can click add photo and take a photo from inside of the app as you're going. You can add sketches if you need to, and we can also add PDFs if, for example, we're inspecting a certain component and we've identified a defect. We can attach a drawing, and then we can mark that up on the mobile device as well. We can mark that up to identify the specific area that needs some attention. Once I'm happy with the way that this form has been filled out, I'm going to click Save. And you'll see that it's been created inside of this first column. So now what we want to do is we want to move it obviously through this workflow process from the first column to the second column. So the way that we do that is with what we call approval signatures. So if I open up this particular form and scroll down, you'll see that we have a signature here that tells me that if I sign here, it will move it to the next column. So I'm going to go ahead and click Sign. You'll see that if I save it, it's now moved to this second column, and I can open that up and sign it off and move it to the third column as well. And that applies for every defect which gets created. The cool thing about Dashpivot is that with the workflows, you can set up notifications. So if we need to notify, and sometimes it might be a third party or it might be the client that you need to notify, we can simply click either of these icons. I'll click the bell if I want to notify myself, or your account, your Dashpivot account, or you can click this eyeball here and we can choose from the people who have access to this team. We can pick someone to get notified. So in this case, maybe I want Nick to get notified. I'll click Nick, and then if I was to add a new defect and for it to sit in this first column, once it's signed off, because it's going to move into this column, it'll notify Nick via email straight away. He can open that up. Click the link in there, it'll open up in Dashpivot, and then he can sign it off or action it as required. So we've got all of that functionality in Dashpivot. You can also send it to external parties if you need to. If I open up the form, we can send it as a PDF to somebody by entering their email address. We can also download the form if we need to print it for whatever reason. And the last thing that I would say is that we've got some register functionality. So we can basically convert this workflow to a register. You'll see that we don't have a lot of information in here. Over time, you're going to end up with something that looks a little more like this. So you might have multiple defects in here, hopefully not too many. And you'll see that we can, basically all it's doing is organizing each field into a column. So we've got column for date, lot number, status, etc. And inside of Dashpivot, we've got some functionality that's very similar to Excel. You can apply filters. So if I want to filter for all of the open defects, I can apply a filter, pull all of those up, and if I need to, I can export them. So maybe I need to make a selection, maybe I'm just looking at these two, or maybe I'm looking at all of them, and I need to export them into Excel. I can export it as a CSV, or I can export this register as a PDF, and it will function sort of like a punch list. You can then print that out and give it to someone on site to action if required. Or you can just download all of the individual defect forms if you need to capture all of that detail. So that pretty much wraps up this video about defect management inside of Dashpivot. If you want to get started, we do have a template available for free. If you click Add Template and select Choose from Free Public Template Library and you search for defects, there'll be a template there which you can use that's ready to go out of the box. And that's how you can automatically track and process defects with Dashpivot.